The same people that would have a problem with the that cleavage cut or that that hip line right there are the same type of people who want to talk about sex to small children in the public schools.
Give Salty a brief TLDR on Stellar Blade and why this game is important.
Sure, Salty. So basically, what what Stellar Blade is a game developed by a Korean developer called Shift Up, which is a second party to Sony, who's publishing the game on PS5, and it's an extremely popular game. It's the #1 pre-order worldwide, and it shipped out today to gamers. And unfortunately, what has happened is that Sony appears to have forced censorship changes upon Shift Up and actually made Shift Up look really bad because Shift Up promised no censorship worldwide, right? And what happened was outfits were censored. They were not what was featured in the trailer. And so people are upset because they bought the game based on what they saw in the trailer, but the outfits have been covered up. And so that was a huge controversy yesterday when people started leaking stuff about it. And it was confirmed today by the developer himself. They are aware of the issue. They're in internal discussions. And now is the time, I think, that we need to support Shift Up and fight Sony and take back the game and restore it to its original design.
So the game was originally launched, and so the thought is that Sony is the one who said no. These Eve looks too skimpy. We need to give her a little more clothes. And just to be clear, that's what you're saying, Grummz.
Yeah, I mean, there were unnecessary changes. First of all, there's a double standard here. There's far more nudity in Baldur's Gate, in Cyberpunk, and these are all mature rated games. Western studios get a pass, but when it comes to an Asian studio, if you show a little too much hip, and keep in mind, we have nude scenes in some of these other Western games. If you show a little too much hip, or if you show a little too much cleavage, Sony makes you cover it up. And it's an atrocious double standard that has been happening for years now, and gamers are really, really upset at the double standard. So we just want what Western studios have. We just want the same thing. And I can guarantee you that Sony is heavily involved with this because they have to approve everything. I don't know if people know this, but when you sign with Sony and you do a game on Sony, your game has to pass what's called lock check in the industry. Lock check means this is the approved final version of the game, and they play test it constantly up until release. Every patch, everything else has to be gone through by an entire team to look for any issues that violate PlayStation standards or whatnot. So while we don't know for sure, Shift Up definitely has been pushing against the woke ideology, pushing against censorship in games. Why would they change these outfits unless there was publisher pressure? So that is the current theory, yes.
And you can see the changes here. Obviously, this is the original version of it. In the patch version here, you can actually see a different color underneath it. The cut was much higher over the hip, and then they brought it down over here. You can see, as well as the cleavage has been covered up.
That's a very simple change in games. So you have a mesh for the outfit, right? And if you just want to add a couple panels, it's just a couple of polygons. And that's why you see probably a hue difference there, is because, you know, they tried to make it a little more stylized. They changed, they recolored that part of the mesh, but that's a new addition to the model. That version existed at some point. And in fact, people are saying it's shopped. It's not shopped. There's videos out there of the character animated in this outfit. And you know what? It's just a bit of cloth, right? But what is important here is that the game is more than a game. It is a cultural beacon now for freedom of expression in games. It is the symbol of the fight against censorship in AAA games and against wokeness in AAA games. That's why this fight is important. It's because it's the first time that gamers are winning. And for Sony to step in and stamp their boot on it at the last minute is what has everybody up in arms, because they have a double standard, which needs to stop.
Salty, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, you know, I think people looking from the outside in would be like, I don't understand what the big deal is. It's just a little bit of they're covering the boobs, whatever, right? But I don't know. I feel like, you know, you're on Rumble. You're a big believer in free speech. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, it's wild. It's the if the same people that would have a problem with that cleavage cut or that hip line right there are the same type of people who want to talk about sex to small children in the public schools. And so it's not so much that they have a problem with I imagine, obviously I don't know what's going on in these people's heads because they're crazy, but it's not so much that they got a problem with boobs or cleavage because most of these people are out there naked during these pride parades. What they have a problem with is the people that they perceive as the enemy enjoying this type of stuff. So they like to wreck things that their perceived enemy enjoys. And so covering up a character like this and upsetting people who kind of kick back against this nonsense is what they enjoy doing. Like this is a victory for them.
Yeah, they would love to see this game fail, and since they can't make it fail because the reviews have been begrudgingly positive because of the excellence of its gameplay, they still want to own the chuds, right? They still want to promote their sexuality and stamp out normal cis heterosexuality, right? That's what this is about. It's actually political in the background.
Yeah.
Bare sex is okay. You know, Hades 2, we have 99% nude goddesses there. That's okay because it's a diversity promoted game. But as soon as you have any sort of sex normative stuff, they go ape shit. They go ape shit. And this is why it's important. It's a fight for the ideology, for stopping the cramming down deviant sexuality down our throats every day and say that that's okay, while trying to erase what drives, humanity for millions of years, which is normal sexual relations, being attractive to a woman, else, instead of having, and look, in AAA games, they are fighting this tooth and nail. Studios are putting out female characters that they scan actresses for and make them look like men because they don't want to offend trans people. They don't, and they want to stamp out normative sexuality. That's what this is about. It's not about gamers getting a little piece of cloth. It's about gamers sick and tired of this being rammed down their throats every single day.
But it's
all right,
not,
I'm mad.
No,
I put up a petition. You got to sign this petition. If you want to reverse these changes and you want to show it to Sony, I have an 8-step plan on my Twitter on how you can take action.
We're going to get to that in just a second. And the thing is, it's more than just the covering up of the body parts of this, this fictional character. It's also blood and gore in the games. Here's an example of this as well. You can see the blood splatter right here, and more so the idea of the blood splatter on Eve after they destroy this stuff. You can see it right here. This is pre-patch and then post-patch, how it's not on her really at all. Once again, pre.
There are some really strict laws about that we can't do anything about that are nationwide, right? Germany has an anti-blood thing. China has an anti-blood thing. So what developers often do is they go with one version that they can ship worldwide because it costs more to make it a toggle, but it also doesn't cost that much more. And that's something that could have easily and can easily be a toggle switch in the game, right? And this is a mature rated game. This is not for kids. I want to point that out. Right. So I think having an option in there is a good thing and wouldn't cost that much. I think that is something that, is made to be more acceptable to governments in other areas that have strict laws about this. But it should be a toggle in countries like America where we're free.
And this kind of goes back to the idea, a larger discussion, Salty, as localization and the idea of translating languages from Japanese to English. Sometimes there are activists in that as well, Salty, where they take certain things and they twist them. And kind of go with what you're saying, Grummz, the idea of having a toggle to have the original word for word translation versus the ideological translation that you see with some of these translators that you see. So yeah, it's crazy. Now, Grummz, you've actually reached out to the creator of Stellar Blade over on your X. And why don't you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, we've had some casual conversations in the past, mutual admiration. He's like, hey, love your stuff. I'm like, hey, love your stuff. And I reached out to him today And I posted this, and we can go ahead and read it. I don't have it up
Mhm.
on my screen. I said, so far the game looks phenomenal from streams that I've watched. I'm looking forward to my pre-order, which arrives today. Not soon enough. I don't have it yet. As you know, your game is more than a game. It is a cultural beacon. In a time of great censorship and anti-gamer sentiment, your game gives gamers great hope. It is why now, more than ever, it is important that you know you have their support. Regarding the changes from the trailer and costumes, please change it back. You have many fans who want Stellar Blade to be even more successful. I believe that changing things back to what was originally shown sends a strong message and will increase the success even more. Now, this is an important point. If you stand against censorship, if you actually put your foot down at a time where gamers have not been winning and we're finally starting to win, they will increase their sales. They might even double their sales. It will send such a strong message and redouble the economic benefits to Stellar Blade. And we want studios like Shift Up to actually be successful, because the more successful a studio is, the more it can change Sony, the more it can change Xbox. And we saw this with Baldur's Gate 3. Microsoft had a policy where that game could only ship on their high-end Xbox, and for other reasons, technical reasons, they said it can't be done on our lower Xbox S. Gamers changed that. The success of Baldur's Gate made Microsoft change the policy, and gamers got it on the platform that they owned. We can make a change here too. Shift Up can make the change, but in order for that to happen, they need the momentum, they need the financial benefit from it to push against Sony. So if, I know a lot of gamers are really upset and they want to cancel their pre-order, they want to return the game. I think that's the wrong target. The right target is Sony.
Salty, you're hearing all this stuff for the first time, and before we got started, I was like, man, this shit's crazy. You don't even understand how crazy the video game industry is right now. What are your thoughts here? And like, you're looking at this from the outside in, first time hearing about all this stuff. What are your thoughts on all this? Just as a whole, it's just a mess. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a continuation of I would say, especially in the gamer field, the people that are doing this is a very, very, very tiny majority, but they're vocal, and they've got.
Sorry, to be clear, you said majority. You mean minority?
Minority. Sorry,
Yeah.
I think the people that are trying to do this stuff and make all of the characters ugly and make them all ambiguous and shaped weird. I think this is a very tiny minority in the gaming field, but they've got access to these positions. Like they've been put into place as journalists, and they've that Sweet Baby Incorporated thing. There's a whole infiltration of this ideology, and I don't care if you guys, whatever you guys want to do, awesome. There's plenty of room in the space to go make games with ugly chicks in them. That's fine. I'm all for that. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to build. They want to tear down, and they're interested in the friction that comes from invading a space that they didn't create, making the friction and then getting off on it while they don't create anything. They make things way, way worse. So go make your own crappy games in your little corner over there and sell them to the other people that are interested in that. Leave franchises alone. Leave these game studios alone. Let these people produce what they want to produce, because people who are allowed to produce what they want to produce create the best things.
Well, you see, Salty, just by you saying that, you're an incredible right-wing bigot.
I know. I've given up caring about that type of stuff. I'm like, okay, no matter what I say, like I am probably the most reasonable middle ground individual that you will ever find. Born and raised in California. I just want to be left alone. But boy, having a common sense understanding of, everybody who's upset with this game's boobs aren't even going to buy it. They're not even going to play it. They just want to yell about it.